So he called Rhino
We
Shield.
live in a beautiful two-story home that was built in 1916. Really been prepped and painted very, very poorly.
Rhino Shield ceramic technology is formulated for our unique climate here in Utah and is Class 1 fire
We
rated.
really had a lot of detail work, and the team at Rhino Shield spent really 4 days just on the prep work, and we were so excited to see that. And the cleanup was just impeccable.
Utah, get the 25-year guaranteed protection of Rhino Shield right now for 15% off the regular price.
We've gotten numerous compliments, and we've actually even had some of the longer-term residents of our community thank us for protecting the integrity of our home.
This offer is limited, so call now 435-246-4466, 435-246-4466, or rhinoshieldwest.com.
Go Rhino Shield.
3 days only. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Save thousands on hot tubs and swim spas. It's a major manufacturer's liquidation of hundreds of in-stock spas. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Hot tubs discounted 40 to 80% to the lowest possible price, starting at $29.99. Free professional delivery. Take possession tomorrow, next week, next month, or next season. The Hot Tub and Swim Spa Sale. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Shop over a dozen models of swim spas from 11 feet to over 19 feet. Swim spas offer low-impact exercise, active family fun, unsurpassed relaxation, and installation in one day. The Hot Tub and Swim Spa Sale. Everything must go. Free parking, free admission. You can't afford to miss this. It's a major manufacturer's liquidation of hundreds of in-stock spas. Friday, noon to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The Hot Tub and Swim Spa Sale. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Visit hottubandswimspasale.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair DinoPay's app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
We have a report of possible police activity that could impact traffic in Ogden at 20th and Adams Avenue, and the final cleanup of 5th South and Main, where we had an earlier crash. For over 80 years, the Olson Greenhouse family has delivered the best flowers for your home and landscape. Add color and cheer this year with bedding and container plants from Olson's Greenhouse. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Cooler today with a high of 59, and then warming through the weekend with a high of 75 on Sunday. 50 degrees and sunny right now. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
After months of wrangling in the House of Representatives, it appears that bills dealing with aid to Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan, and some humanitarian packages for Gaza and other places will eventually get to the floor of the House of Representatives for a vote this coming weekend. Now, beyond the headlines of all the drama inside the House, there's actually some leadership lessons underneath that are worth thinking about. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Well, yesterday, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson formally unveiled the foreign aid bills. This was a little different approach than what had been taken up. The Senate, of course, had one single bill dealing with different aid packages for Ukraine, Israel, the Indo-Pacific, and other national security priorities, along with some humanitarian aid specifically targeted for Gaza. The Speaker unveiled those, each of them to stand alone and to be open for an amendment process. And so that is where things are moving along. It appears, and everything I'm hearing coming out of Washington, D.C., is pointing to Saturday as the day that those will actually get to the floor. And then the real fireworks, I think, will begin then. In the meantime, of course, the other drama is unfolding with Marjorie Taylor Greene and a few others becoming a little more vocal in their willingness to exercise this ability to vacate the chair, which is basically a fancy term for saying removing the Speaker of the House. And it's one that has gotten a lot of attention, a lot of threats, a lot of back and forth, a lot of drama, a lot of social media posts, a lot of national cable news appearances, and a whole lot of fundraising emails to boot. And it's interesting to me when you get past all of those headlines and all of that chatter and clamor and drama, there's actually some interesting things going on underneath. I think there was a moment yesterday when Speaker of the House Mike Johnson actually became the Speaker of the House. As he unveiled his plan for these foreign aid bills to a reporter, he was asked point blank about the effort by Marjorie Taylor Greene, Representative Massey from Kentucky, and others who have been rattling some sabers, that they would exercise that ability to vacate the chair over what he is putting forward when it comes to aid, these aid packages. I want you to listen really close to his response.
My philosophy is you do the right thing and you let the chips fall where they may. If I operated out of fear over a motion to vacate, I would never be able to do my job. I'm doing here what I believe to be the right thing. I think providing lethal aid to Ukraine right now is critically important. I really do. I really do believe the intel. I believe Xi and Vladimir Putin and Iran really are an axis of evil. I think they're in coordination on this. I think that Vladimir Putin would continue to march through Europe if he were allowed. I think he might go to the Balkans next. I think he might have a showdown with Poland or one of our NATO allies. To put it bluntly, I would rather send bullets to Ukraine than American boys. My son is going to begin in the Naval Academy this fall. This is a live fire exercise for me, as it is so many American families. And I'm going to allow an opportunity for every single member of the House to vote their conscience and their will on this. And I think that's the way this institution is supposed to work. And I'm willing to take personal risk for that because we have to do the right thing, and history will judge us.
So many lessons in there. To me, that's what a Speaker of the House should sound like. That regardless of what the criticism is, regardless of the threat, are you willing to do what you believe is the right thing? Now, we can have debate, and we'll get into all of the details in terms of what these proposals do and don't do, where they should be in terms of priority with other domestic issues that many are calling for, including border security and immigration reform. Those are all the policy debates beyond that. But the thing that I think was most important about what the Speaker of the House said yesterday was that he said, to me, this is something that I have to do as the Speaker. That's what leadership does, that every member will have an opportunity to vote their conscience and vote what they believe is in the best interest of the country and for their constituents back home. That is how it's supposed to work. And he said, if I lose my job over that, then so be it. In other words, that's functioning from a position of strength. You've heard me on this program many times. Ask people running for office. Ask the candidates. What is it that would make this worth it, even if it cost you your job? What's the one thing you would do, even if it guaranteed that you would be out of the job you're currently in? Because if a candidate or an elected official can't answer that question, I question whether or not they should be in the job. Because if there's not something that they are so passionate about or so committed to do for their constituents or for the American people or our constitutional republic that they would give up their job to do it, they haven't thought hard enough about what the job actually is. Because the job is not about reelection. The job is not about some consulting gig or lobbying job when they're done. It's not about writing a book and having a memoir or becoming a talking head on cable news. And so, again, set your feelings about Israel, Ukraine, Taiwan. You can set all that aside for saying, just from a leadership standpoint, what the Speaker of the House said yesterday is exactly what I would hope we would hear from all our members of Congress. That let's put things on the floor. Let's have debate in front of the American people. Let's vote on amendments to make the bill better or decide what we need and don't need within it. And then let's vote on it. That's the way it's supposed to work. And the Speaker of the House said history will judge us accordingly. And I think he's absolutely right. Now, I also want you to listen to the House Democratic leadership, the minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries. He talked about his belief in the path forward and why it does matter that Speaker Johnson bring this to the floor. Take a listen.
Our top line commitment is ironclad. We are going to make sure that we stand by our democratic allies in Ukraine, in Israel, in the Indo-Pacific, and make sure that we secure the humanitarian assistance necessary to surge into Gaza and other theaters of war throughout the globe.
All right. So here's an awesome day when I can say I 100% agree with the minority leader from the Democrats, Hakeem Jeffries, and I 100% agree with the Republican Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. In those two bits of sound that you just heard from those two leaders, they were actually leading. It was not the politics. It wasn't the posturing. It wasn't playing for 2024 and who's going to win in November and all of those things. That's what it's supposed to be like. That's what it's supposed to sound like. And I actually loved that Representative Hakeem Jeffries used an and rather than a either or. He avoided the fake fight and the false choice. He said, we're going to do these three things and we're going to take care of some humanitarian needs in Gaza and other places around the world. It's an and conversation, not a this or that, not a fake fight and a false choice. And so I think the fact that these two leaders were actually leading yesterday, that's a good day. That's a good day. And I'm sure that on Saturday when these bills get brought to the floor, there'll be some ferocious debates. And there might even be some theatrics and some fireworks before then, as some members of the Republicans try to vacate the chair and remove Speaker Johnson. And I think that the Democrats and Hakeem Jeffries just might say, not so fast. We actually think we can work with this person, and they may keep him in that speaker's chair with the speaker's gavel. So that's what it's supposed to sound like, folks, and we should expect that not just on a day like today where, as the speaker said, history will judge us in the end, but as voters, we should expect that every day from our elected officials. We'll be right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson.
When you think of Utah's homeless, who do you see? They are people with names and faces, and many are in dire circumstances. They are men and women, and sometimes children. Many are living on the street, in a car, or in a shelter. Some choose to be homeless. Most do not. Many experience the challenges of addiction or mental illness. All are vulnerable. Homelessness is a crisis, one that affects us all. Utah is building a coalition of community leaders and concerned citizens united to end the plight of homelessness. Homelessness should not mean hopelessness. Learn more at projecthumandignity.org. A message from Utah Impact Partnership.
Crosscheck for Utah sports.
The Arizona Coyotes are expected to be sold to Utah Jazz owner Ryan Smith.
The move from Arizona to Utah puts another Major League sports franchise downtown. Get the latest on timing and the impact on Utah's economy. The story will break this week on KSL News Radio.
Les Olson IT is now a Rico Graphic Arts and Production Systems dealer. Rico chose Les Olson because of our reputation for superior service and national recognition. Les Olson IT chose Rico Graphics because they're the best value compared to other commercial-grade printers. Rico excels in high volume, high speed, high resolution, and offers an exciting fifth color. Learn more at lesolson.com.
Les Olson IT.
An emergency can happen any second. Here's a few seconds to think about where you'd go. When you need medical care fast, the closest emergency room is a smart thing to know. Common Spirit Health ERs are your direct path between feeling scared or uncomfortable and feeling better. Find emergency care in your neighborhood at mountain.commonspirit.org.
Hi everyone, it's Congressman Blake Moore here. As I've listened to your concerns during my recent in-person and telephone town halls, one thing is clear. Utahns are concerned about border security. According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, the Biden administration's policies have allowed for over 8.5 million encounters nationwide, including over 7 million at the southern border, more than ever before in American history. Record amounts of fentanyl have come through our borders and led to heartbreaking outcomes for families who have lost loved ones to overdoses. For the sake of our community's safety and national security, something must change. This is why House Republicans swiftly passed the Secure the Border Act of 2023 to strengthen our southern border with new technologies, increase the number of Border Patrol agents, end catch and release, and require transparency from the Department of Homeland Security. I will keep fighting to make 1st District communities safer, and I encourage you to sign up for my weekly e-newsletter and follow me on social media at Rep. Blakemore to stay updated on my efforts. Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
Hey guys, do you know your T level? Revive Men's Health here in Salt Lake City is helping you take that first step toward better health and enhanced intimacy with a free testosterone level test, exam, and consultation. Plus, for this month only, qualified patients can kickstart their treatment with a free supply of ED medication. Revive's customized ED treatments can provide immediate results, restore blood flow naturally, and even bring spontaneity back into your love life. With both in-person and telemedicine appointments available, plus free shipping directly to you, Revive takes the hassle out of treating low T and ED. Having an optimal testosterone level can change your whole life, and it starts with knowing your T level. Take that first step and book your free testosterone test, free exam, and free consultation, and kickstart your treatment with a free supply of ED medication this month only. Call Revive Men's Health Salt Lake City at 801-263-7777. That's 801-263-7777. Or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
Does your business struggle with ISO, SOC 2, HIPAA, CMMC, NIST, or other compliance? Register now for the WebCheckSecurity.com Cyber Summit. That's WebCheckSecurity.com.
I'm Dave Cawley, investigative journalist and host of the podcast Cold. Don't miss Cold's new Season 3, where I look into the unsolved disappearance of Cherie Warren, a woman last seen leaving her job at a Salt Lake City office in 1985. Police cast suspicion on Cherie's estranged husband and boyfriend, but never made any arrests or recovered Cherie's remains. Find Cold Season 3, The Search for Cherie, anywhere you get your podcasts.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bonas. First, an announcement of the Arizona Coyotes getting the green light to move to Utah could come at any time. Second, 2 people died, several more were injured when a car plowed into people waiting at a bus stop in Las Vegas. And third, members of the Kennedy family are endorsing a candidate for president, and it's not Robert Kennedy Jr. 51 degrees and sunny right now in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
Well, Iran spent years increasing its influence in the Middle East. Also, the use of proxy paramilitary groups such as Hamas and Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen. And now as things get more intense with a strike against Israel over the weekend, and now the world waits to see what the Israeli response will be. We want to get into the question is, what is the U.S. strategy in relationship to Iran? We often say that hope is very important, but hope is not a strategy. And sometimes it appears that the administration is grasping maybe a little more at hope than it is strategy when it comes to Iran. Someone who's taken a deep dive on this, Nahal Tusi, Politico's senior foreign affairs correspondent, has a great piece on the strategy. And Nahal, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So give us kind of your perspective in terms of where is the administration, where is President Biden in terms of strategy, or are we just kind of hoping?
Well, the Biden administration does not have an Iran strategy. That's kind of the bottom line for me after talking to a bunch of people and covering this stuff for years and following Iran in particular. And, that's kind of what it comes down to. Now, some people will, quibble over what counts as a strategy. But the way I see it is that if you have a strategy, it needs to solve a problem. And if you consider Iran a problem, as they do, then you need to have a strategy to try to solve that problem, whether it's its behavior or one aspect of it, such as its nuclear program or something. And they don't really have anything right now. They just don't. It's more about, it's long been about keeping it off the president's desk. The last several months, that's been much harder. But it's been mostly about just kind of containing things, keeping it as low boil as possible, managing the problem instead of solving it.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important perspective to dig into. And you do this beautifully in the piece, talking about the difference between tactics and strategy. And you can actually go back to The Art of War. The Art of War says strategy without tactics is the slowest path to victory. But tactics without a strategy is just the noise before defeat. And you used words like containment and de-escalation and deterrence, kind of that tactical stuff. Is there any semblance in there in terms of a strategy, or what is the conversation moving toward as things do escalate in the Middle East?
Well, I think, at the moment, the immediate focus is trying to limit this conflagration between Iran and Israel, right? So there's not a lot of energy into longer term strategy about Iran, which is in many ways the kind of the root of so much of the destabilization across the Middle East, according to the Biden administration itself. But one way that they are approaching it is it's kind of a backward approach, which is they do have a strategy called regional integration, right? So this is where they want to get the Israelis and the Saudis to become friends and hopefully create a pathway for a Palestinian state. As part of that, they want to build economic security and other types of relationships between Israel and Arab countries, at least some of them in the Middle East. And the idea being that because many of these Arab countries also dislike Iran, just like Israel does, that maybe if they unite with Israel, you'll have this united front that will put pressure on Tehran and the Islamist regime there. And so it's sort of this idea that maybe over time this will weaken the regime there. The problem with that is that the Middle East is a very complicated place, and every single country has its own interests. The Saudis, even as they have been talking to the Israelis about getting something going, they've also been trying to mend fences with Iran, right? And there's other countries that are not willing to come on board with Israel. And now the war in Gaza has made that even more complicated. So the administration, bottom line is it really does not know what to do when it comes to Iran itself. And, there is the argument that if you can, I don't know, it's a hard problem though, right? I want to give them some credit. This is a really hard problem.
Yeah, the degree of difficulty factor is very high. So we will grant the administration that for sure. The interesting thing to me is not just in the Middle East, but in other places, it seems that the administration has really taken this approach to a lot of areas around the world as sort of the de-escalate almost not at any cost, but almost. And it seems like that has prevented them from getting to strategy, because if all you think you have to do is the tactic, as you point out, of de-escalating, it just buys you that little bit of time, and it's sort of it's kind of like cash flow in a business. It covers a multitude of problems underneath that. A de-escalation, you can say, oh, we're fine, we're good, and then you don't actually solve it, as you pointed out.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that we don't really have the best China strategy. I mean, they actually do have a China strategy, an approach to China that you can argue, could amount to strategy. Again, the word strategy, people define it in different ways. I'm the first to admit that, Some people will say de-escalation and containment are strategies. I disagree. But when it comes to China right now, one thing they've just been trying to do the last year and a half, 2 years has just been easing the tension with China to the point where we can just have conversations with them. I mean, there was a long time where, our top guys couldn't even get the top Chinese officials to talk to them. So sometimes you do have to take certain steps to just lower the temperature. But there's also the problem that if you don't address the root issue and you just deal with the symptoms, ultimately it's not going to work, right? And frankly, the Palestinian issue is an example, right? For a long time, the U.S., but also Israel in particular, they just were like, you know what, we can just manage this. We can just manage the Palestinian issue. We'll occasionally have a face-off with Hamas. We'll, do some raids here and there, and it'll just be under control, right? But they didn't try to resolve it. The political crisis with them, the security. There's so many issues that that many people believe will ultimately can be solved in a Palestinian state. Some people will disagree with that, but the point is that they didn't try to solve it, and we saw what happened in a way. Like it didn't go away.
Yeah,
as we have well learned.
Yeah, which is usually the case when you're just trying to maintain the status quo. It never stays the status quo forever. Things change, and I want to get to one other area that you pointed out in your Politico piece, and that is looking at some of the dynamics moving forward that could impact. Again, if there is a strategy that could impact that, including the fact that the Supreme Leader, Khamenei, is 85 this week. Actually, I think today is his birthday. Is it the 19th? Yeah, it's his birthday.
Is it? I did not know that.
You learn something new every day, right? So as you look at that, and obviously there will be a change, a transition is coming. So how is that likely to impact what is happening, and then how the U.S. will either continue to try to manage or come up with a strategy for?
Correct. I mean, they need to be thinking about that. Any Iran strategy needs to factor in succession. It's not clear who's going to succeed Khamenei at this stage. It's not clear when. And one of the challenges for any government, whether democracy, but especially dictatorships that are loathed by their people, is that a transition is almost always a moment of vulnerability, right? It is where things can happen, where things can fall apart. And so it's a question of how you deal with that, whether you have the systems in place to react to that. It's important to remember one thing, though, which is Iran. It's not just a dictatorship of one man. It really is a system. It's almost like, like a spider web, right? And it does have the ability to regenerate itself. Whether it's, even if you kill like the top IRGC commander, they just promote another guy,
Right.
So it's a little bit more tricky than, say, a place like Saddam Hussein's Iraq, right, where it really kind of was all about him.
Yeah.
And everything kind of fell apart when he fell. So it's going to be tricky. Perhaps there's some brilliant minds out there coming up with a strategy. Notice that I did not offer my own strategy because I'm not that smart, right? But I do hope people will read my column.
Everybody needs to read your column because it's both great writing and it's great insight, as always. Nahal, thank you so much for joining us today. Nahal Tusi, Politico's senior foreign affairs correspondent. And we will have you come back with the strategy next time, Nahal. Thanks so much for joining us.
Accepted.
Okay, game on. Game is on. All right.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to step aside for some bottom of the hour news. More inside sources coming up next. Nahal Tusi from Politico. That's why we do this show. She is wicked smart. We'll be right back.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomis. KSL's top story this hour. Utah Governor Spencer Cox brought his Disagree Better campaign to the TED stage. KSL News Radio's Alexandria Bonilla reports.
Governor Cox was the only elected official slotted to speak at TED 2024, The Brave and the Brilliant. He used the stage to promote the National Governor Association's Disagree Better initiative. The Deseret News reports he called the audience to action with 4 steps: spending less time polarizing, spending more time with people who are different from you, giving back, and practicing patience, humility, and moderation.
Cox was grouped in the Bridge Builders session alongside other political scientists, conflict resolution experts, and social entrepreneurs. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A man who's created artwork satirizing former President Trump was called as a potential juror in the hush money case today, but Mark DeMuro was excused after telling in court he couldn't be impartial. DeMuro was in a group of 96 potential jurors. He says he was surprised when the Trump case turned out to be the one he was assigned to. Jury selection will continue tomorrow. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up on the day now, 44 points. The NASDAQ is down 63. And we'll see warmer weather going into the weekend. That's next. KSL News Time, 1:31.
News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Get our SpringFest doorbusters while you can right now at Lowe's. Shop $5 spring cleaning must-haves from Scrub Daddy, Tide Simply, and more. Plus, save over $1,000 on the LG Smart Top Load laundry pair. Was $22.98, now $12.96. These limited time deals are going fast, so shop them in-store and online today. Lowe's knows spring. Lowe's knows savings. Offer valid through 4/22. Appliances pricing includes all discounts while supplies last.
Every business faces challenges, but complicated, expensive, and uncertain shipping shouldn't be one of them.
With USPS Ground Advantage from the United States Postal Service, you can avoid all the noise. No more unexpected surcharges, hidden fees, or complex rate structures. It's just easy, cost-effective, and dependable shipping. Tune your business's frequency to success and turn shipping to your advantage. Learn how at USPS.com/advantage. USPS Ground Advantage. Simple, affordable, reliable.
The season of adventure is finally here, and it's time to take your adventures to a new level in an RV from a Motorsportsland RV Center. Enjoy the breathtaking destinations right here in Utah without leaving the comforts of your new home on wheels. Hurry in now and check out our limited supply of 2023 model closeouts at huge discounts. Save almost $15,000 off MSRP on our 2023 Prowler 265BHX for only $24,995 with 0 down payment options under $300 a month OAC. Or $10,000 off our 2023 ROG 10MC Toy Hauler for only $16,995 with 0 down payment options under $200 a month OAC. At Motorsportsland RV Centers, we offer real prices without hidden fees for freight, prep, orientation, or even propane. See details and more amazing deals on premium RV models at motorsportsland.com.
Let Motorsportsland help you get away.
Motorsportsland.com.
The life of a small business owner. Keeping the lights on, calling all the shots. And then there's workplace accidents. 500-degree ovens, rusty nails. Danger lurks around every corner. Workplace accidents can happen, but there is an easy way to keep your employees covered. Talk to your agent about workers' comp coverage from Pi, or go to piinsurance.com and get a quote. Safety first, then Pi Insurance. Individual rates, offerings, and savings may vary, subject to policy terms and conditions. Not available in all states and situations.
Looking for a secure retirement plan without market risk? Look no further. Lyle Boss, president of Boss Financial, specializes in no market risk retirement strategies with guarantees of principal, guaranteed growth, and lifelong income. Join Lyle right here each Saturday and Sunday for his Safe Money radio show, and call him now at 855-355-SAFE for your complimentary customized Safe Money information kit and Safe Money book. Nothing but upside here at 855-355-SAFE.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
Scanners calling out a crash at Redwood Road, about 2200 south. There is some backup in the area. And an accident, 1500 East Roosevelt Avenue. That's approximately 1500 south. The UACPA supports certified public accountants in Utah through ongoing professional education and leadership development. Find a CPA that works for you, uacpa.org. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Cooler today with a high of 59, and then warming through the weekend with a high of 75 on Sunday. Right now, 52 degrees and sunny. I'm Dan Bomis from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson.
On Utah's home for elevated conversation.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, we've often talked about the arsonist who's a firefighter, and sometimes that's how things tend to go when it gets to our nation's capital. And sometimes a big federal government tries to solve a government problem with more government problems. Someone who's taken a close look at that and a very interesting, very specific application to all of that. Mark Hayden, of course, is the Director of State Government Affairs at the R Street Institute. Great piece on what President Biden is proposing to fix in government with more government. And Mark, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
So let's get into this in terms of how do we actually get out of the arsonist firefighter downward spiral when it comes to government trying to solve government with more government?
I mean, well, first of all, government is the only sector that can cause a crisis and then claim that the only way to fix that crisis is to give them more power and more money. And that's exactly what's happening here. The government has undermined the housing market, and now the feds supposedly want to fix it by creating new government programs and spending more money, as if a country in $34 trillion in debt has any extra money to spend.
Yeah, and so kind of dig into that, unpack it for us just a little bit in terms of what government programs or processes have been put in place when it comes to the housing and how that impact is rolling out.
Sure. I mean, if you take a step back and you look at it, I mean, I'm sure all of your listeners know prices for houses, it's gone through the roof, but we also don't have inventory at the same time. And a lot of this goes into the fact that in order to try to fight against inflation, the feds have increased the Federal Reserve rate. And what happens when you do that? Mortgage rates go skyrocketing. And right now they're sitting at over 7%. But it gets compounded even worse when you look at government regulation. Actually accounts for about 25% of a home's price. So if you buy a $400,000 home, if you take out the government regulation, it would have cost only $300,000. So I think we can all collectively thank the government for that one.
Wow, that is. I just want to slow down on that one just a little bit to let that sink in. So if you've recently purchased a new home, or just think of when you bought the home that you're currently living in, that 25% of the cost of that was directly related to regulation. Am I reading that right?
That's correct. I mean, there's various kinds of regulation at different levels of government that will impact this. But all told, a study that came out in 2021 came to that conclusion, and that is just absolutely shocking. Imagine how much more of a house someone could buy, or what kind of home someone could buy who is living below the poverty line or struggling if it was 25% cheaper and we just got government out of the way.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about what the president is proposing. Again, trying to solve this problem that clearly has a government genesis component to it. Give us a sense of what it is the president's proposing, and what the impact of that might be.
Well, I would call it a virtual cash giveaway. That's what he's endorsing.
What could possibly go wrong there?
Correct. But, first of all, I will commend the Biden administration for acknowledging that there is a housing problem. I mean, we have a shortage of upwards of over 6 million homes that we need to try to bring some balance to the market. But instead of addressing the issues that are laying right in front of us, the Biden administration has gone in a different direction. And they endorsed a plan to add 2 million homes to the market by providing tax incentives to build more houses, offering a $10,000 tax credit to individuals to sell their home, and $25,000 in down payment assistance to first-generation home buyers. Second-generation home buyers need not apply because it wouldn't go to them. So this is just a tax scheme in many ways and a cash giveaway that isn't going to fix it. So, I mean, first of all, his goal is to add 2 million homes to the market. Well, that doesn't do a whole lot when we need over 6 million homes in the market. And a $10,000 tax credit to incentivize someone to sell their home is patently ridiculous, because if they have to buy another home, when you factor in the inflated mortgage rate, they're going to pay $10,000 or more dollars in about a year just in the increased mortgage rates.
Yeah, I think that when I read that in your piece the first time, I think I read it like 4 times, that there would be $10,000 tax inducement to sell your home. That was a new one for me. And then, of course, you start extrapolating that out, and it's like that just doesn't make sense in any way, shape, or form. And so if you look at some real solutions in terms of what's a better way to go at this in terms of dealing, as you said, 6 million homes short, we're a long way from that. Even the president's proposal only projects about 2 million. How do we actually get on a path where that becomes a little more plausible?
I mean, it's not going to happen overnight no matter what we do, but I feel like government is not the answer here. Government is actually the problem to a lot of the issues that we're facing. But state, local, and feds, they can all work together to try to ameliorate the situation. One, by cutting some of these regulations that makes it so difficult to build homes and makes it difficult to build affordable homes. So getting rid of some of those costly regulations and working with local officials, because there's different localities that are imposing moratoriums preventing construction of various kinds of housing, which that's not really helping the situation at all. And then lastly, what I think is one of the most important issues to the housing discussion is the Federal Reserve rate, because when Biden took office, or just before he did, the mortgage rates were below 3% for someone with good credit who wanted to buy a home, and now they stand at over 7%. and that is directly related to the Federal Reserve rate. So working to draw that back in a way that can lower mortgage rates will really help the market.
Yeah, great insight, great perspective as always. Mark Hyden is the Director of State Government Affairs at the R Street Institute. Mark, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Again, that's Mark Hyden from the R Street Institute. And this is, again, one of those things where on the surface you can say, wow, we're going to have incentives, we're going to have tax inducements. I could never quite wrap my head around why are we giving a $10,000 tax inducement to someone to sell their home, knowing they're going to have to go buy something else in the process, but not really getting at the root cause. Obviously, where the interest rate is a huge factor in all of that, and then also making sure we're keeping the costs for home builders, those regulatory costs, under control is a big piece of that puzzle as well. And so it's one of those where it sounds good on the surface, but as always, we have to get past the headlines. We have to get underneath it to really make sure we understand what the issue is, what's being promised, what's likely to be the result. To me, this doesn't do anything to deal with regulatory costs, which will keep the cost of homes continuing to go high. And if the interest rates continue to stay high, that means the buying power of the homeowner is less. And that makes it all more difficult. And then, of course, the inventory issue gets compounded by all of that. And so we have to be careful when the government is being both the arsonist and the firefighter. And that's where we often end up with these kinds of things, particularly in an election year. It gets complicated, it gets messy. And that's why getting government out of the way, government has a role to play for sure. But the heavy hand, the over-regulatory stuff, the high interest, those are all things where if we could get government a little more out of the way, we'd get a better result for the American people. All right, we're going to step aside for a quick break. When we come back, more Inside Sources on KSL News Radio. Stick around.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
Are you really that different than the rest of us?
We are. As a fiduciary, we always focus on what's best for our clients.
What services do you offer besides investing?
We have a team of specialists in financial planning, estate planning, and more.
Your clients rely on you for all that?
Yes, we ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Okay, but you still sell commission-based products, right?
No, because we believe that's a conflict of interest. We prioritize service over sales goals.
So, then how do your fees work?
We have a simple and transparent fee that's a percentage of our clients' portfolios. So we do better when our clients do better.
Wow, we're more different than I thought.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20, a Pfizer vaccine.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine. It can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just 1 dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle and joint pain, For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
Discover the best of senior living at Trio Orem and Trio South Ogden. Today's older adults aren't wrapping up their life's journey, they're seeking a new one. And Trio Independent Living is here to help them do just that. With a smart, modern, and connected lifestyle, residents cultivate relationships and maximize independence through signature programs like Prime Fit Wellness that bring living well and well-being to life. Welcome to the new age of senior living. Schedule your visit at leisurecare.com/Utah today.
Business. It's all the things that keep this world turning. And behind every one of these companies is a partner helping to keep it all moving. It's why the local flower shop and your favorite pizza joint, the startup and the stadium, hospitals and hotels, banks and restaurants nationwide all choose the advanced network, cybersecurity solutions, and round-the-clock trusted partnership from Comcast Business, the company that powers more businesses than anyone else. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
See why Comcast Business powers more small businesses than anyone else. Get started with fast speeds and advanced security for $49.99 a month for 12 months with a 2-year contract. Plus, ask how to get up to an $800 prepaid card with a qualifying internet package. Don't wait. Call or go online to switch today. Ends 5/5/24. Restrictions apply. New customers only with 50 megabits per second internet and security edge. Eco bill and auto pay required. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra.
We have breaking news. The team formerly known as the Coyotes will be making their way officially to the Beehive State. Jessica Lowe joins us in studio. Jessica?
Boyd, the sale of the Arizona Coyotes to Utah Jazz owner Ryan Smith has been approved by the NHL's Board of Governors. The team will be moving to Salt Lake City after the postseason. Smith's paid for the Coyotes. The current owner, Alex Marullo, will get part of that, and the rest will go to the NHL. If Marullo gets an expansion team, he will repay the funds. Once again, the Coyote sale and relocation to Salt Lake City has been approved.
And Marullo did retain the rights to the name Coyotes, so we know that it will not be the Utah Coyotes. It will be the Utah yet to be determined. We'll watch for that. Jessica Lowe, thanks for joining us. We'll step aside. We'll be right back with more Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
There's a race going on inside your body, and sometimes the bad guys, otherwise known as arthritis, get there first. That's when the joint pain kicks in.
Your healing process is just too slow and just can't catch up, and it needs just a little bit of help from QC Kinetics.
That's Dr. Daniel Zuckerman, a QC Kinetics medical director.
We all know that you can heal yourself. If you get a cut, it heals on its own. Your joints are no different. We can take the healing properties from your blood, concentrate them down, and put them in the spot that you need the help. It's amazing. Your body can heal itself.
At QC Kinetics, that's called regenerative medicine. No surgery or steroids, just lasting relief, the natural way.
The fact that we can treat them without surgery, but using their own body's natural healing process, without medications, without steroids, without surgery, it's just amazing.
Call QC Kinetics now for your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 385-766-1987. That's 385-766-1987. 385-766-1987.
Any Hour Services can help unclog any drain in your house. Whether you have a backup, a clog, or a slow drain you want fixed, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, Governor Cox promoted his Disagree Better initiative in a national TED Talk. Second, Utah's raised millions to protect wildlife habitat by auctioning off hunting and fishing permits. And third, a man who's created artwork satirizing former President Trump was among those called up for jury duty in the hush money trial today. That man was quickly excused. 52 degrees and sunny now in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today. As always, I am Boyd Matheson. And, of course, as we continue to march our way towards conventions coming up not this Saturday, but the next, followed by primary season, we're trying to keep tabs on all the candidates and all the races to see what's happening around the Beehive State. And, of course, the congressional district open seat with John Curtis choosing to run for a Senate seat instead. One of those who has their eye on that particular seat in Congress, Case Lawrence, is running. He's a resident of Utah County. He's the founder and former CEO of Circus Tricks, now Sky Zone. And Case, welcome to the show.
Boyd, thanks for having me.
So as you begin this journey, I have to give you the counsel that I've given everyone as they think about running for Congress, and that is the most frustrated people in our nation's capital are those who are entrepreneurs or former business executives. They tend to be part of what I call the flat forehead society of you slap your head thinking, I don't understand that. So I want to know, Case, what is it that got you into this race, knowing that government is not going to run nearly as well as you've run your business?
Yeah. Look, I feel a sense of urgency about the direction of our country, just like you and I know many of your listeners. And I've watched over the last congressional term here as we have gotten nothing done. And frankly, that's not just a problem of the entire House. It's a problem of our Republican caucus. We have got to be smarter team players back there. And instead, we've been sowing drama. We've been infighting. We've been trying to excommunicate our speaker rather than get things done. So to your point, Boyd, that's one of the big motivators for me getting into this race. We need to send serious people back to Washington, D.C., and I will be that kind of leader, that kind of representative for the 3rd District.
Yeah, we always say that the real driver of freedom, not just here in the U.S., but around the world, are the entrepreneurs and the business owners. And if you want to help a country that's in socialism or in some kind of dictatorship, it's getting those institutions that support entrepreneurs and business owners. Give me a sense in terms of how you would approach some of those crucial issues back in D.C. through the lens of your entrepreneurial and business experience.
Yeah, to that point, I'm the only person in this race who has a track record of doing big things in the real world of business. I built a $1 billion business with over 5,000 employees. And through leading and building that, Boyd, I found myself on the front lines of just about every major economic crisis of our generation, both the Great Recession and then most recently in COVID. We have trampoline parks and kids' playgrounds all over the world. And during COVID, over 300 of them were shut down for an average of over 7.5 months. And we had to dig in. We had to negotiate with landlords, with employees, with banks. And we did. We were able to do that and get things done. So you're right. I do have a bias toward getting real things done. And I'm hoping that will give me credibility and leadership in our own caucus to help be a force for doing that.
Yeah. As you look at and project forward, if we got to January 5th of 2025 and things came out right, what would be the highest priority? Day one, you're sworn in. What's next?
There's a lot of big problems. For me, the number one urgent problem is the border. And it's urgent because there is this time element, Boyd, where every day thousands of people are pouring over and presenting themselves at the border. And so every day counts. And for that reason, for that time urgency, I think the border is the number one issue. And I am very optimistic. I'm optimistic that we can win the White House, that we can flip the Senate. And if we do, we are going to pass historic legislation substantially in the form of H.R. 2, which is there and waiting in the wings. And I think we can that's one area we can make a big impact. I'm optimistic.
As you've been out on the campaign trail talking to the voters in the 3rd Congressional District, what have you been hearing, and especially what has surprised you as you've gone through this process thus far?
Well, I've been surprised by a number of things, but the biggest thing I've been surprised at is how well-informed Utah voters are, and specifically how well-informed delegates are in this state who are participating in that process. And the questions they bring are deep, they are detailed, and they are well-informed. So that's one big surprise. I've also been surprised at how much difference of opinion there is in the current Republican Party. There's a lot of different thoughts, different opinions seem to be, even though we agree on maybe 90% of things, there's some vociferous disagreements on certain issues. And like many, I'm hopeful we can remember that we're all on the same team as we discuss those rationally and find a way forward as a party.
All right. And then final question for you, and this is a question I ask to every candidate, any office, from city mayor to President of the United States, I've asked everybody the same question, and it is, as you're learning, campaigns are hard, they're brutal, they can be awful, painful, exhausting, exasperating, all of those things, plus to your family. What is it that would make all of this worthwhile? Even if you got to the first Tuesday in November and you came up short, what would still have made it all worthwhile?
Well, I already feel that it's all been worthwhile. My family is aligned in this journey with me. They've been actively involved in this campaign, and it's actually been one of the great adventures we've shared as a family, one of the great experiences. So already I feel that. And Boyd, I feel like my eyes have been open. I've learned so much. I've met so many people and, become so much from this experience that it's hard to I don't think I'll ever regret it regardless of the outcome. But I'm just, it's made me more grateful to be a member of the great state of Utah and of the Republican Party. It really has. It's brought me back to a basic appreciation for those things and for our country.
Fantastic. Case Lawrence running for the 3rd congressional seat, resident of Utah County. And Case, thanks so much for joining us. Good luck over these last week and a half to get to convention and beyond. And I'm sure we'll be talking to you as the campaign rolls forward. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Boyd.
All right. Again, that's Case Lawrence running in the 3rd congressional district. And always fascinating to see what draws people in. I loved his perspective in terms of what he's learning in the process, the confidence it gives in the state of the state of Utah and the direction that we can actually move forward together with. So great perspective there. Big thanks to Case Lawrence for joining us as he runs for that 3rd congressional seat. We'll continue to cycle candidates through as we have this conversation. And I love that Case Lawrence pointed out how educated the voters are that are coming to these town halls and to these campaign events. And I do think it is a unique thing here in the state of Utah that people are engaged, that they are leaning in. And I hope you're leaning in as you get to know candidates in a wide range of races, from the federal level right down to the city and the local level. Those are all crucial conversations to be had. It's your job to be part of it, to be informed, so that you can actually make your vote matter, not just count. All right, that wraps up hour number 1 of Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. We'll step aside for some top-of-the-hour news. Hour number 2 coming up next. Stick around. We'll be right back.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. We have breaking news. The National Hockey League Board of Governors has now approved moving the Arizona Coyotes to Salt Lake City. The franchise doesn't have an official name yet. The new owner, Ryan Smith, has invited fans to have a say in what the team will be called. Smith is reportedly paying more than $1 billion for the franchise. The rest of the teams in the NHL will share some of that revenue. Alex Marullo, the former owner of the Coyotes, is hoping he can bring an expansion team to Phoenix eventually. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Massive black hole has been discovered in the Milky Way. KSL News Radio's Michael Commit has more on that.
Astronomers are excited because they theorize this black hole and a nearby star were once a pair of stars. Billions of years ago, they would have settled into their orbit after their galaxy merged with the Milky Way, and this would explain why the remaining star rotates in the opposite direction compared to other nearby stars.
And this black hole is 33 times the mass of our sun. It's only about 1,900 light years away from Earth. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down or up on the day right now, 24 points. It's been up and down today. The NASDAQ is down 81 points right now. And our KSL weather, we've got sunshine and we'll see warmer temperatures over the next several days. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time 2:01.
You know
what's great about KSL's traffic coverage? Trained traffic reporters and real listeners.
Trading information and making the commute safer and faster for everyone.
Every 10 minutes on the nines, we have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Spring is a great time to elevate the look of your home and landscape by adding beautiful flowers to the yard and patio. And pros and hobbyists alike know that the best flowers are grown by Olson's Greenhouse, right here in the mountain valleys of Utah. This is Brian with Olson's Greenhouse, and my family has been growing flowers with love and care for over 80 years. That's 4 generations of a local, family-run Utah business. So whether you're looking to add a pop of color to the back patio or a beautiful flower bed to the front landscape, flowers from Olson's Greenhouse are the perfect finishing touch to make your yard a joy to relax in. Stop by ogg.com or find us on Instagram at Olson's Greenhouse Gardens, where you'll find inspiring photos to get you going on your flower gardening journey. You can also find a local retailer carrying plants from Olson's Greenhouse. That's ogg.com for Olson's Greenhouse Gardens, where you can dream big, dream bold, and dream in color with beautiful plants and flowers from Olson's Greenhouse.
Want to keep your gas-powered engines running like new? Stable's proprietary formulas are proven by third-party testing to outperform the competition in keeping fuel fresh, preventing corrosion, and cleaning the entire fuel system. With Stable, you can have confidence you are doing the right thing for your engine's long-term health. Just pour into your gas can or fuel tank, then top off with fresh fuel. At every fill-up or when you store, start with Stable. Available where fuel additives are sold.
Lowe's knows pros need the right tools for every job. That's why we sell the largest in-store selection of Klein tools anywhere. Find new items launching exclusively at Lowe's, like the self-leveling laser level for just $159.98. Plus, shop the Connect socket set for just $49.98. Get Klein tools in-store and online today, because Lowe's knows tools. Lowe's knows pros.
3 days only. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Save thousands on hot tubs and swim spas. It's a major manufacturer's liquidation of hundreds of in-stock spas. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Hot tubs discounted 40 to 80% to the lowest possible price, starting at $29.99. Free professional delivery. Take possession tomorrow, next week, next month, or next season. The Hot Tub and Swim Spa Sale. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Shop over a dozen models of swim spas from 11 feet to over 19 feet. Swim spas offer low-impact exercise, active family fun, unsurpassed relaxation, and installation in one day. The Hot Tub and Swim Spa Sale. Everything must go. Free parking, free admission. You can't afford to miss this. It's a major manufacturer's liquidation of hundreds of in-stock spas. Friday, noon to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The Hot Tub and Swim Spa Sale. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Visit hottubandswimspasale.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
It's a beautiful day for a drive, and Valley Freeway traffic is in good shape. We have the final cleanup of a crash at 1500 East, about 1500 South Roosevelt Avenue. Crossroads of the West Gun Show returns this weekend to the Mountain America Expo Center. Great deals on guns, ammo, and accessories, plus buy, sell, or trade at the show. This is the big one. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Cooler today with a high of 59, and then warming through the weekend with a high of 75 on Sunday. Right now, 52 degrees and sunny. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
So many of the headlines continue to swirl around the Middle East and around Gaza in particular, and it has touched so many different places and spaces around the world in terms of the geopolitics and also the politics right here at home. And as we look at President Biden's re-election campaign, of course, he's doing a little sprint across Pennsylvania this week as part of that. And in the meantime, a lot of the challenges that the president is going to face in that re-election bid will actually be in the Middle East and Gaza in particular. Gaza's been dividing Democrats in some very interesting and unique ways. Ronald Brownstein, of course, is the senior editor at The Atlantic, senior political analyst for CNN, one of the best in the business, and wrote a fantastic piece digging into what this really is, what it means, the challenges the Biden administration has had and the president himself has had in terms of navigating and threading the needle when it comes to Israel and Gaza. And Ronald, thanks so much for making time for us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So give us kind of your lay of the land in terms of how the president has approached this and some of the challenges that it's creating for him, not across the political spectrum, but really within the center of his own party.
Yeah. Well, as you said, I mean, it is a highly complex challenge from both a political and a policy standpoint, and there are no entirely safe courses of action for the president in terms of the domestic politics. But I think the kind of the summary of what we've seen is that Biden's instincts about Israel were formed in an earlier generation. And his kind of inclination, his first step, as we would say of an outfielder, is always to emphasize his support for the country. And his theory, when the conflict began, you remember the phrase, he was going to bear hug Netanyahu and try to influence him by staying as close as possible. The problem he's got is that his instincts are very different than the dominant view in his party today, both about Israel in general and its degree of vulnerability in the region, and particularly about Netanyahu, who has identity. I've been covering national politics since the 1980s, and I don't think there's any foreign leader who has identified as closely with one of the U.S. political parties as Netanyahu has with the Republican Party over the years. Only 1 in 20 Democrats in polling say they have a favorable view of Netanyahu. And so the president has kind of been caught between his instinct to resist confrontation, to resist imposing conditions on Israel, and the growing unease in his party, but also in the center of the electorate among independents about the way Israel has conducted this war. He has seemed a step behind, and in terms of kind of matching where the public is going, particularly in his own party. And as a result, as I say in the story, I think he is facing more internal dissent inside the Democratic coalition over the way he's handled this than a Democratic president has faced over any foreign policy decision, really, since Vietnam.
Yeah, and I want to unpack that a little bit, but before I do that, I want to get the first step is such a crucial thing, and bonus points for the baseball reference. But often the president has found that first step has often ended up in a backpedal and a lot of confusing messaging in terms of saying this but then doing that. Sometimes he feels a little more like the British Bobby, who's unarmed, yelling "stop" or "I'll yell stop again." And that seems to be creating confusion both within the party, but also on the international stage in terms of what is the policy, what's the agenda. Is this a de-escalate at any cost problem? And is that creating more confusion than clarity, again, even within his own party?
Well, as we said, he is extremely reluctant to have anything approaching a fundamental breach with Israel. And he is extremely reluctant to back his words with consequences. So, as we have seen, I think both as a result of political pressure in his own coalition, that's undeniable, but also because of a genuine policy reaction to the way the Netanyahu government has pursued this war and what they've said about the aftermath, he's moved toward more of a rhetorical public criticism of Israel's approach to this. But he has not married that to actual consequences. And so you have more and more, we're up to about 20 Senate Democrats, 56 House Democrats, urging him to suspend the delivery of offensive weapons until certain changes happen. Importantly, no one is really calling, no one that I'm aware of, or at least that, the mainstream of the party is calling for the suspension of defensive weapons, like the Iron Dome that Israel employed over the weekend with Iran. But even though that distinction is pretty clear in terms of the positioning, it's a little more murky in terms of the policy. The F-15s, for example, that Israel is seeking, were also the U.S. used F-15s to shoot down some of the incoming missiles. The Iran attack has probably pushed back this confrontation within the party to a degree. It has kind of delayed it, I think. But May 8th is a date that you should circle because under pressure from some of those Democratic senators earlier this year, the Biden administration issued a national security memorandum that requires them to report to Congress on May 8th about whether all allies, but certainly pointedly Israel, are using U.S. weapons in accordance with international law and whether they are cooperating with the distribution not only of U.S. aid, but international aid that the U.S. supports. And it is, I think the sponsors, the senators who advanced that idea, negotiated it with the administration, think it is going to be very hard for them to certify that Israel has done so, particularly on the aid front.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Well, we're going to watch that May 8th very closely. Help us unpack for a second the impact on the younger voters. And again, we know it will be a close election, and this is not these people are going to switch parties and vote for former President Trump. But this is more, do people become disconnected and not show up? And in a close election in those 7 battleground states for sure, that could be the difference between re-election and packing it up.
Yes, absolutely. And particularly, as I'll say in a moment, Michigan is a particular problem. And it is a very difficult state for Biden to replace if he can't win it. I mean, there is a way to replace it, but it's not easy. Look, young voters have never been that enthusiastic about Biden. They weren't in the 2020 primaries. They rallied to him against Trump in the 2020 election. His approval rating among them has never been great. And this provides this represents just one more hurdle that he's got to get over. There is, in the polling, opposition to the way Israel has conducted the war and resistance to sending them more offensive weapons is as high among young people as it is among any other group. And as you say, the issue the Democratic pollsters and strategists are worried about is not so much that large numbers of them will flip over and vote for Trump, because Trump would, if anything, be even more deferential to Netanyahu. And Stephen Miller, his top immigration advisor, is openly tweeting pictures of pro-Palestinian demonstrations and saying ICE will be busy in 2025 deporting people is what he means. But the fear is that when they're not that enthusiastic to begin with, that this may provide another reason at the margin for people to stay home or splinter to the many third-party options they have. I also think Michigan is a particular problem, where you have that large Arab American population, which is not by itself, I don't think, large enough to tip the state, but all the protest that is centered in those communities like Dearborn just keeps this in the news more in that state. And I thought it was a worrisome for Biden straw in the wind that the University of Michigan president about 2 weeks ago felt they had to impose new unilateral restrictions on protest on campus because the protests against the war have been so intense and widespread. If that level of activism is happening at Ann Arbor, that is not a good thing for Biden because, winning Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin is the surest path for him to get back to 270 electoral college votes. If he doesn't win Michigan, he has to win either Georgia, which looks very hard, North Carolina, which looks very hard, or both Arizona and Nevada, which is probably the best option of the three, but is no guarantee either. So the Michigan problem is a concentrated version of the youth problem nationally, and it's compounded by the Arab American problem.
Yeah. Fantastic perspective, as always. Great piece. You need to go check that out at The Atlantic, theatlantic.com today. Ronald Brownstein, senior editor at The Atlantic, senior political analyst for CNN, one of the great thinkers and someone who has watched this for a long time and has great depth, insight, and wisdom in terms of what all of this means and how this will play out. Thank you so much for making time for us today.
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for the kind words, and have a good rest of the week.
All right. That's Ronald Brownstein again from The Atlantic. Some really fascinating perspective. And it's one of those, again, you look at just the headlines, it's the headlines. But if you get underneath the headlines, you can start to think again about what you think you know. And Ronald does that with the best of them. More Inside Sources coming up next.
Before Payson High comes down,
there is a time to every purpose under heaven.
The balloons and crepe paper go up one last time.
And there is a time to dance.
Kevin Bacon returns to Payson High School. Dave and Debbie are live for Bacon to Payson, Friday at 9 on KSL News Radio.
Introducing Peach Doors and Windows. Are you ready to upgrade your home with stunning new windows but are overwhelmed with how to begin? Look no further than Peach Windows. You know at Peach, they are all about giving you options. Peach offers a wide selection of wood windows, sleek modern black metal frames, European tilt and turn windows, plus much, much more. It's not just about looks, it's about durability and security to protect what matters most. Let them help you find the perfect match for your home, budget, and personal style. Visit their showroom and see for yourself. No pushy sales tactics, only guidance from their experienced staff. No inflated markups just to offer so-called discounts. See their 5-star reviews where customers rate them on their attention to detail through every step of the sale and installation process. Amazing home transformations begin with windows and doors. Serving Logan to St. George, just Google Peach Building to see for yourself.
People decide to lose weight for all different kinds of reasons. I mean, I interviewed someone who told me that 30% of all Utahns are pre-diabetic. Maybe it's your health, or maybe it's the fact that summer's going to be here any day and you got a wedding this summer and you just want to feel more confident in your dress as the mother of the bride or the father of the bride.
And you know that's what's happening in my life this summer with my daughter, who lost 42 pounds on this great program. You talk about feeling confident. If you're the bride, that's your day.
People do it for all different reasons, like Jim.
You know, I have the family history of family members being obese, and I did not want that. And I figured now would be a good time that I could take control of something.
So whatever the reason is for you, today is the day to start the Soda Weight Loss Program.
Yeah, it's nice to know that message is getting out. And really, if people see you as good as you look today, they will want to get in on the program too. It is Soda Weight Loss. Go to sodaweightloss.com, which stands for
State of the Art.
It is State of the
Art.
Springtime in Utah, and if you're a business owner that hates to paint, do what business owner Al did. He called Rhino Shield.
I was watching TV one night and saw the Rhino Shield ad, and I thought, well, if they can do a house, they can probably do a building.
Rhino Shield ceramic technology is formulated for our unique climate here in Utah and is Class 1 fire rated.
So they came out and they gave me a price, showed me how the Rhino works, how it lasts, and how the guarantee works.
Utah residential or business, get the 25-year guaranteed protection of Rhino Shield right now for 15% off the regular price.
They waited for us to leave, and they worked Saturday and Sunday so they wouldn't affect our business at all. This was the great part of it. I came back Sunday night, and you couldn't even tell they were here. There was no paint on the ground. They did a fantastic job.
Utah, this offer is limited, so call 435-246-4466, 435-246-4466, or visit rhinoshieldwest.com.
Go Rhino Shield! Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. I am Boyd Matheson. Great to be with you today, as always. I want to go back to a conversation I had with Jessica Lowe this week, who founded an incredible organization. This is all about doing something that makes a difference. We talked about her organization. Take a listen. You have this extraordinary organization, A Little Too Kind, and I love the backstory to it because it shows what happens when we're aware and then when we're just intentional about things. So give us the story. What is the genesis and what is it that A Little Too Kind is doing?
Okay, so while we started out, I was attending a culinary school, and this was in 2021. And just a few days into the school, I realized that we were going to be making and then throwing away a lot of food. And the area that my school is located in is in an area that's heavily saturated with those experiencing homelessness. And so every day when I would leave class, I was thinking, why are we wasting all this food when we could just be giving it to these people who would appreciate it so much? So I started bringing containers from home to pack my food up. And after class, I would just pass it out to anybody that I saw on the way back to my truck. And this kind of grew from just my leftovers to a friend in my class started giving me hers. And then everybody else in the class started donating theirs. And before we know it, we're doing this every single day after class, passing about 20 meals out to people we see on the street.
Oh, I love that. And then, of course, as all great difference makers, you didn't stop.
No.
You just kept looking. So kind of give us the journey from that genesis, which, again, is just being aware, being mindful, seeing people, and seeing an opportunity. Then you went into the space. We talked about this at the summit. I talk about it all the time on this show. You stepped within the parentheses of the crazy idea. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so after school ended, school is a 12-week-long program, and so we did that every single day after school. And once school ended, I felt like I couldn't just stop because I had made relationships and formed all of these connections with the homies. That's what we call them. And I started to realize that the whole reason that I had felt so strongly about attending this particular culinary program in the first place was to lead me into this direction. So I decided to turn it into a nonprofit and focus our efforts fully on food and just make it a lot bigger than what we were doing before. So we started visiting the homies every Thursday, and we bring them a hot homemade meal as well as a sack lunch for later. The hot homemade meal is made by me every week, and we're serving about 120 homies every Thursday. And then everything in the sack lunch is donated by volunteers every single week.
That is amazing. I just have to go back to something you said, Jessica.
Okay.
That culinary school led you to feeding the homeless.
Yeah.
I don't think that was on the flight plan.
It wasn't, but you know what? Food is magical like that. Sitting down with people and sharing food is magical, and it starts conversations, and it opens doors. And it opens doors to conversations with people that you might not ordinarily have. And once you have those doors open, then the sky's the limit. That's where a relationship can begin. And that's what we're doing with our homies is it begins with food, but that's not where it ends. We are creating relationships with them because they can get food. There's a million different organizations that offer food. But we're creating relationships with them, and we know their families, we know their stories, and we truly love them like they're our own family.
That's so powerful, and I just want to pause for our listeners. So this is what leadership sounds like. This is what leadership acts like, because it's not about a transaction. It's not just about handing out some food. It's about a relationship.
Right.
And that changes everything.
Right.
So tell me about the army that you've put together that are doing these lunches, that are putting these things together every week. How are you going about all of that?
Yeah, so in the beginning, we started telling our friends and family, and they started donating things. But once it grew a little bit bigger, and then I made it an official nonprofit, I knew that I was going to need a lot more than what I had available to me at the time. So this was kind of a hard process for me because I was really hesitant about posting on social media. I didn't want it to come across as like, I'm so awesome, I'm doing all this. But we did need the help. So I was like, we have to post because we need the help. So we started posting on social media, and people from all over the community have just stepped up. They sign up to provide the stuff. In each lunch, there's a water, juice, a sandwich, either peanut butter and jelly or meat and cheese. There's chips, and then a homemade treat. And then we also have, so people sign up to make all of those things, and they're dropped off every week. And and that's 100 of those each. And then we also have larger groups like sports teams or small businesses or church groups that want to be a part of it. So then they'll sign up to make like hygiene kits. And then I get to go and speak to them and share with them about our message and what we're doing and thank them, because our donors and our volunteers are the angels. Like they are what keep us afloat. And I'm so thankful for them because we wouldn't be able to do this without all of them. But there's hundreds of them. And anytime I have the opportunity to thank them publicly, I do. So thank you if you're listening and you've donated in some way. Anyway, so grateful. And the homies, they feel it. They feel the love that's put into their food. And they'd tell me that all the time.
Yeah, no question that it makes all the difference. And this is also a leadership principle. Leaders build an army. And that's literally what you've done. You've invited people to become part of a story.
Yeah.
And it's not just a project. It's not just a thing. It is a transformational experience. It's so powerful. So as you look at kind of the takeaways, we always get to the therefore what question. What do you hope people think different? What do you hope they do different as a result of what you're doing with Be a Little Too Kind?
So I feel like the biggest takeaway for me has been accepting the fact that you can't force anybody to change. Be a Little Too Kind isn't out there trying to force homies to make a decision that they're not ready to make mentally. But I do know that through love and kindness and service that's intentional, it has to be intentional, hearts can change. And that's where the magic is. When hearts change, then you start to see a miracle take place, because then people start to realize that they want more for themselves because they deserve more. And they realize their worth, and they stop thinking about who they are currently, and they start thinking about who they want to be. And I just feel really lucky to be in the position that I am in, to be able to sit front row and watch this process unfold for so many homies, a good handful of homies that have like slowly made changes to just completely change their life around. And I just wish that everybody, we'd share every Thursday on our Instagram, our stories, but I just wish everybody could see what these small acts of service, even just donating the waters or the chips, because this whole thing started out as just a small act of kindness anyways. And those small acts of kindness turn into something big. And I just wish everybody knew that. Don't ever think that something that you've done that's so small doesn't matter, because every single person can make a difference.
No small parts or players. The seemingly insignificant often turn into the extraordinary, especially when they're led by a one-of-a-kind leader. And Jessica Lowe, so grateful to have you in studio today. Be a Little Too Kind, bealittle2kind.org. Check that out today. And then be part of it. Just live it. If we all do just a little bit, it changes and transforms everything, especially when we do it intentionally and we're looking to build relationships, not just transactions. That's how we make it. And remember, politics may have failed. It's community and culture that lead. It's one family, it's one neighborhood, it's one community coming together in kindness that will actually lead. The politicians will catch up eventually, maybe. All right. Jessica, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, we'll step aside for some bottom of the hour news. More Inside Sources coming up on KSL News Radio. Stick around. We'll be right back.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomis. KSL's top story this hour. The National Hockey League Board of Governors has approved the sale of the Arizona Coyotes to Ryan Smith. That's formal now. The team will be moving to Salt Lake City. KSLSports.com says the team doesn't yet have an official name, though Smith has invited fans to make suggestions. The previous owner of the team has reserved the right to put a new NHL franchise in Arizona if one becomes available in the future. Smith is also working with the city on a downtown district to host his professional sports teams, including the Utah Jazz. The ground in Utah actually shakes much more often than we might realize. University of Utah seismologist Catherine Whitten tells Dave and Dujanovic we get a 3.0 magnitude quake about once a month.
A magnitude 3 might feel like a lot of people think a truck drove by, or like something hit the side of the house, or the kids were being rowdy or something, and then later they realize, oh, that was actually an earthquake.
Whitten says the Wasatch Front's particularly active, historically has a 7.0 quake about every 1,300 years, which means we're due. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. United Airlines has been absorbing some of the costs associated with Boeing's recent troubles. Now, Boeing says it will compensate the airline for its losses. United says it's freezing pilot hiring and modifying other plans because Boeing hasn't kept up with scheduled deliveries of new airliners. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average closing trading up 22 points on the day, while the NASDAQ closed down 81. And we'll see warming temperatures through the weekend. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:31.
We hope you have the right app on your phone for news. You probably have dozens.
But the KSL News Radio app, well, it makes our live stream super easy.
Plus, our talk shows are right there as podcast for your workday.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for up to half the cost. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular single line 1, 5, and 10 gig data plans with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plans offered by T-Mobile and Verizon January 2024.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds, which could be life-changing. I mean, you could put that money towards that zero-turn lawnmower you've always wanted. And after using its edge-shaping technology to meticulously sculpt the face of the Mona Lisa into your grass, you'll become the undisputed king of Saturday morning lawn care, leaving your neighbor and sworn enemy Gary to question his place in the delicate neighborhood ecosystem. And it's all because you could save money switching at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states.
What was that? That is business phone bliss with the Ooma Cloud phone system. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs. You sound very... Calm? I am. Ooma has everything I need to run my business more efficiently, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees. Ooma. Nice. Find your business comm at ooma.com/radio.
Pizza's here. Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
The life of a small business owner. Keeping the lights on, calling all the shots. And then there's workplace accidents. 500-degree ovens, rusty nails. Danger lurks around every corner. Workplace accidents can happen, but there is an easy way to keep your employees covered. Talk to your agent about workers' comp coverage from Pi, or go to piinsurance.com and get a quote. Safety first, then Pi Insurance. Individual rates, offerings, and savings may vary, subject to policy terms and conditions. Not available in all states and situations.
Common Spirit Health has expert orthopedic care that gets you back at it and back to your best. Find skilled orthopedic physicians at Common Spirit locations who specialize in general orthopedics and repair of hips, knees, shoulders, and hands, so you can return to running races or chasing the grandkids. Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Orthopedic care with human kindness is here. Visit mountain.commonspirit.org.
79 missionaries trapped and penniless inside Germany borders with war days away. From director T.C. Christensen comes Escape from Germany, in theaters now. Tickets at escapefromgermany.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
Kind of quiet on the roads. Valley Freeway traffic looking good. No accidents there or on the main secondaries, but we do have slower speeds southbound on Redwood going from West Valley into Taylorsville due to road work. Put the equity in your home to work with a home equity line of credit and get 6.49% APR for the first 6 months. Learn more at cypresscu.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Cooler today with a high of 59, then warming through the weekend with a high of 75 on Sunday. And right now, we're at 52 degrees with sunny skies. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson. On Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
President Joe Biden has been on the campaign trail this week in the important battleground state of Pennsylvania, and the president continues to make a play for steel union votes made some announcements this week. We want to dig into what those are, what they might do, the downstream consequences, and what they actually might mean in terms of some votes come the first Tuesday of November. To help us break all of that down, Eric Boehm, of course, from Reason. And Eric, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Boyd, glad to be here.
All right, so a couple of days ago, the Biden administration launched a new line of attacks on the former president and made some new promises in terms of things relating to steel. Tell us about it.
Yeah, that's right. A bit of contradiction here from the Biden administration and the Biden campaign. In the last couple of weeks, we've seen the Biden campaign start to ramp up this line of attack on, basically trying to turn around the inflation issue on Trump and say, well, okay, maybe you voters are concerned about inflation. Maybe the last years haven't been so bad, but look at what former President Donald Trump wants to do. If he gets elected in November, he's going to put more tariffs on things. He's proposed, this is a fair attack. I mean, Trump has proposed a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the country. He's also floated the idea of 60% tariffs on goods from China. That will undeniably raise prices for consumers and for businesses. And that's something that would certainly add to inflation. And so the Biden campaign has tried to turn this, around on Trump, basically, and say, look, if you think inflation was bad while Joe Biden was in charge, well, just wait until Donald Trump gets back to the White House. And which is all fine and good. I think, as political attacks go, I think it's actually probably a pretty reasonable one. But then you've got the president yesterday during what was nominally an official White House event, but realistically was just a campaign event in Pittsburgh, is standing up in front of a bunch of unionized steelworkers and promising that he's going to put new higher tariffs on steel from China. So, at this point, I don't know. I guess it's just a competition over who can slap more tariffs on the right bad guys. I guess that's what we're doing now. We're just singling out political opponents on the international stage that we think deserve to be tariffed. And of course, tariffs are just taxes on consumers. So all of this guaranteed to backfire on Americans.
Yeah, on Americans. It may be helpful for a campaign moment, might do some wonders for their fundraising, may lock in a few extra votes here and there. But for the American people, it's not going to end well when it comes to prices for goods. For sure. And so I want to break it down just a little bit because you hit a couple of things that I think are important for us to remember about a campaign. And that is you called it a nominally official gathering. We call it the Rose Garden on the Road strategy, where you do something that is sort of kind of almost within the realm of your governing duties, and then you make the rest of it feel very much like a campaign event. So clearly the Rose Garden on the Road is going to be a major strategy for President Biden. But now unpack for us both that strategy and then how all of this will actually impact the American people if this kind of tariff that, again, the president's clearly playing to the steel union votes, how's that all going to play out?
Yeah, right. I mean, obviously, that's what he's doing here, right? To take your last point first, he's obviously just playing to the steel union votes. He wants the applause from the blue-collar steelworkers in a swing state like Pennsylvania, in a swing state like Ohio. Maybe that's enough to swing the election. Obviously, that's why these types of events are happening. But this is an official policy. There is official government weight behind this. The Commerce Department is now looking into. They've begun the process of investigating whether more tariffs on China would be appropriate. That's a lengthy process. May actually take us beyond the election before anything actually happens. As I said in the piece that I wrote for Reason, I think the best thing that can be said about this proposal from Biden is that it would be ineffective. Because we actually don't import much steel from China anymore. We once did 20 years ago, but we just don't anymore. It is somewhere between the seventh and ninth, kind of it bounces up and down, but somewhere between the seventh and ninth largest source of steel the last few years to the United States. It is way behind. Accounts for about 2% of overall steel imports. Last year, it did about 2% of overall steel imports. It's miles behind places like Germany and Canada and Mexico, which are our biggest suppliers. And so ultimately, slap some more tariffs on Chinese steel, whatever. You could cut Chinese steel completely out of the market and it wouldn't make much of a difference. So on one hand, he's acting like this is a a policy that's going to have significant, serious, because this is, real protectionism that's going to save American steelworking jobs. I mean, it's not. And if it was serious enough to actually shift the market, then it would cause price increases downstream that would be bad for consumers who are upset about inflation. So I don't know. This is just completely nonsensical to me. But about the only good thing that I can say about it is that it kind of won't matter.
Yeah, and I think that's so important for us to recognize. Again, the headlines are the headlines, and everyone's going to say, oh, wow, these big tariffs on Chinese steel, playing tough, playing hardball with the Chinese, all of those kinds of things, America first. Both sides of the aisle will, dance on those kind of bumper stickers. And yet, as you said, at best, it's going to be a non-factor because we really don't use that much Chinese steel anymore. But the precedent in terms of the philosophy behind it is the one that we really should be taking a look at.
Yeah, I mean, it's concerning to me as somebody who recognizes the benefits of free trade that it's really concerning to me that you now have two major party presidential candidates. You've had, now at this point, two consecutive presidents and presidential administrations that have been pretty openly hostile to free trade. Trump obviously put a bunch of tariffs in place, raised the overall tariff rates that had fallen for decades until he got into office. And now, overall average U.S. tariff rates went up during his tenure. Biden has kept most of those in place. He's loosened a few of them in small ways, but the big ones are still there. And now Biden, of course, is talking about adding more. So you do have, kind of a locking in that occurs with any policy when you have, one president come in and make a bunch of policy changes and the next administration of a different party doesn't roll those things back. You can look at anything from the Patriot Act implemented under George W. Bush, and then, a lot of that maintained and expanded by Barack Obama. And now you have a national security apparatus that is basically impossible to dislocate. And it's the same sort of thing on trade policy. Once you have multiple administrations backing similar and similarly bad policies, then it becomes really difficult to get that out of the public policy mainstream here in D.C.
Yeah, no question about that. And it is the big threat and the big danger, I think, when you play the populist politics card. And as you said, we've seen it on the Democrats and the Republicans, and that makes it the precedent, and that becomes the governing philosophy. And as you pointed out, that if this kind of policy continues to go, the biggest impact, the hardest hit are going to be American citizens and consumers who are going to pay more for those goods and services. And that, to me, is the thing that goes way beyond the bumper sticker. Eric Bain, reporter at Reason, great piece at Reason.com. Check that out today because it'll help you see beyond the headlines of what everybody's touting in terms of this America First and tariffs and protectionism, because it really isn't quite what it means or what it seems to mean in the headlines. Underneath it, there's some really bad policy that ultimately hurts American consumers. Eric, as always, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Boyd.
All right, we'll step aside for one last break. Some final thoughts on Inside Sources coming up next.
Hey there, you in aisle 2. I see you by the fiber and laxatives. You still using those to manage your constipation with belly pain? If your symptoms keep coming back, you may have irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C. So you may need more than over-the-counter treatments to manage it. Ask your doctor about how Linzess can help you get ahead of it.
Linzess linaclotide is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS.
When you crash your car, you get it fixed. When your computer crashes, you get a new one. But what will you do if you've been saving in a 401k or an IRA and the market crashes? If you're in your 30s or 40s, you'll be just fine. But if you're in or near retirement, you could be in trouble. Mike Stevens and his team at Capital Wealth Advisors are here to help. They can run a risk analysis to see if you're too heavily invested in the market. Don't let the ups and downs of Wall Street control you or your retirement dreams. Call 801-210-5500 today to schedule your risk analysis with Mike Stevens and the team at Capital Wealth Advisors. That's 801-210-5500. Crashes happen. Question is, are you ready? Capital Wealth Advisors, 801-210-5500. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor.
Listen closely. The future of medicine is here in the Valley, finally, at QC Kinetics. QC is the nation's leader in the most exciting revolution in pain management we have seen in decades. It's regenerative medicine. If you're about to dust off the bike and get it out for some spring riding, but you're a little worried that that knee or that hip is going to keep you out of the saddle, you need to call QC Kinetics today. Surgery, steroids, drugs may no longer be your best options. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics is transforming lives with innovative treatments that deliver lasting results, and it's under the direction and leadership of National Medical Director Dr. Mitchell Scheinkup, a pioneer in the field with 20 years of clinical work, tons of research, teaching, and publishing. He wants to get you relief without surgery or downtime, so call today for a free consultation, 385-766-1987. That's 385-766-1987. 385-766-1987.
Now your ideas don't have to wait. Now they have everything they need to come to life. Dell Technologies and Intel are creating technology that loves ideas, loves expanding your business, evolving your passions. We push what technology can do, so great ideas can happen right now. Find out how to bring your ideas to life at Dell.com. Welcome to Now.
For the ones who work hard to ensure their crew can always go the extra mile, and the ones who get in early so everyone can go home on time, there's Grainger, offering professional-grade supplies backed by product experts so you can quickly and easily find what you need. Plus, you can count on access to a committed team ready to go the extra mile for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Make Mother's Day easy this year and get the best gift ever, a blanket from Minky Couture. Minky Couture creates the amazingly soft, comfy, and cozy Minky blankets and robes. Just in time for Mother's Day, save 50% off any regularly priced Minky Couture blanket using promo code KSL50 at checkout. Shop online at minkycouture.com or visit your local Minky Couture for special neighborhood deals. Again, save 50% with promo code KSL50 in stores or online at minkycouture.com.
The life of a small business owner. Keeping the lights on, calling all the shots. And then there's workplace accidents. 500-degree ovens, rusty nails. Danger lurks around every corner. Workplace accidents can happen, but there is an easy way to keep your employees covered. Talk to your agent about workers' comp coverage from Pi, or go to piinsurance.com and get a quote. Safety first, then Pi Insurance. Individual rates, offerings, and savings may vary, subject to policy terms and conditions. Not available in all states and situations.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. Did you know that we offer 3 distinct styles of gutter protection? Each one meant to handle a specific leaf problem. You might not even know there are different styles of gutter protection, but there are. And if you pick the wrong one, it could be a huge waste of money. Now, the big gutter guard companies won't tell you this. They try to sell you a one-size-fits-all gutter guard, and it could be completely wrong for the amount and types of trees and leaves you have. Not RGS Exteriors. We understand which kind of leaf problem needs which kind of gutter guard. We'll do an in-depth evaluation to assess the types, locations, and numbers of trees in your yard. Based on that data, we match your home to the right gutter guard. So don't risk wasting money on the wrong gutter protection. For a free evaluation and estimate, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit rgsexteriors.com. That's 801-280-3110 or rgsexteriors.com. LyleBoss.com.
Looking for a secure retirement plan without market risk? Look no further. Lyle Boss, president of Boss Financial, specializes in no market risk retirement strategies with guarantees of principal, guaranteed growth, and lifelong income. Join Lyle right here each Saturday and Sunday for his Safe Money radio show and call him now at 855-355-SAFE for your complimentary customized Safe Money information kit and Safe Money book. Nothing but upside here at 855-355-SAFE.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, do it now. Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the Arizona Coyotes are moving to Salt Lake to play as the Utah Somethings. The team doesn't have an official name yet. Second, earthquakes happen in Utah all the time. Most are too small to feel. And third, United Airlines is getting $200 million from Boeing to compensate for all the problems it's had delivering new airliners. Right now, 52 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today, as it always is. I am Boyd Matheson. As we round out the program today, I want to go back to the beginning. You've heard me say it on the show a lot. Leadership is what leadership does. And we've had a lack of leadership in so many places, especially in government, especially at the federal level, that it's always interesting when we actually hear something that sounds like leadership or acts like leadership. And we always like to point that out. And over the last 24 hours, we have heard from both the Speaker of the House and the Democratic Minority Leader, and it actually sounded like leadership. And so I don't care where your politics are. I don't care how you feel about aid to Israel or to aid going into Gaza for humanitarian or Ukraine or Taiwan. Just what they're dealing with back there and what the two leaders in the House, the Democrat and the Republican, had to say in terms of what we should be thinking about and how we should be approaching the job. I think it's worth going back and just thinking about this because, again, it sounds like what I think leadership is supposed to sound like. And so let's start yesterday. The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, he had unveiled his plan for the foreign aid bills, chopped them up into pieces. So one for Israel, one for Ukraine, one for Taiwan and the Indo-Pacific, and then one for aid, particularly aid going into Gaza. And as he did that, of course, he was asked about those within his own party who want to oust him if he brings these bills to the floor. Here's how he responded.
My philosophy is you do the right thing and you let the chips fall where they may. If I operated out of fear over a motion to vacate, I would never be able to do my job. I'm doing here what I believe to be the right thing. I think providing lethal aid to Ukraine right now is critically important. I really do. I really do believe the intel. I believe Xi and Vladimir Putin and Iran really are an axis of evil. I think they're in coordination on this. I think that Vladimir Putin would continue to march through Europe if he were allowed. I think he might go to the Balkans next. I think he might have a showdown with Poland or one of our NATO allies. To put it bluntly, I would rather send bullets to Ukraine than American boys. My son is going to begin in the Naval Academy this fall. This is a live fire exercise for me, as it is so many American families. And I'm going to allow an opportunity for every single member of the House to vote their conscience and their will on this. And I think that's the way this institution is supposed to work. And I'm willing to take personal risk for that because we have to do the right thing and history will judge us.
Have to do the right thing. History will judge us. I think there were some extraordinary points in there. Now, listen to the House Minority Leader, the Democrat leader, Hakeem Jeffries, who talked about the path forward, also with some things that sound like leadership.
Our top line commitment is ironclad. We are going to make sure that we stand by our democratic allies in Ukraine, in Israel, in the Indo-Pacific, and make sure that we secure the humanitarian assistance necessary to surge into Gaza and other theaters of war throughout the globe.
Now, if you take those two statements, and these are two people, they're at the top of the food chain when it comes to the House of Representatives. The Speaker and the Minority Leader, that they have the ultimate power there when it comes to shaping and driving an agenda. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, said, I'm bringing these things to the floor. and history will judge us. And if that costs me my job, so be it. That's what a leader is supposed to sound like. It's doing the right thing, what you think is the best thing. Doesn't mean everybody's going to agree with you. And if you lose your job doing the right thing, that's still a pretty good day. And I think our nation depends on that. And so, again, regardless how you feel about the policy, we need to have this kind of leadership on everything that's going on in the House and the Senate. Everything that's happening in the Oval Office needs to be looked at through that lens of we're going to do the right thing. We're not going to just play the political games. We're not just going to game everything out to see if we can pick up more seats in November and have the majority and all of those things, or win the White House back, whatever it may be. That's not the game, because the job is not a game. The job is a job. And members of Congress signed up to do a job, not play a political game. And sadly, we've been seeing far more political games than we have people doing the job they were elected to do. And I think the minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, said, look, we are going to stand with an ironclad commitment to our allies, to Israel, to Ukraine, to Taiwan, and those in the Indo-Pacific. We're going to make sure we get aid into those suffering in Gaza, innocent civilians that are caught up in all of this. It's an and conversation. It's not a fake fight and a false choice. And so I commend Hakeem Jeffries on that. And so we've become far too comfortable in this country with just the political battles and the political games, as opposed to statesmanship, stateswomanship, real leaders stepping up, speaking out, even standing alone if necessary, even saying, you want to take away my job? Go ahead. History will judge us for what we do and whether we stand by. I also thought it was very interesting that the Speaker of the House said, I believe Vladimir Putin, that he's not going to stop in Ukraine, that he will go on to Poland or to the Balkans or to other areas in Europe, that he's not done, that Xi is being honest and transparent when he says that Taiwan will be reabsorbed into the motherland. I think there are a lot of things we need to look at in terms of Iran and North Korea, for that matter. And so you put all of those together, we better act. We better do something. As we talked about earlier in the show, we have had far too many people just hoping things will de-escalate, hoping things will change, hoping thugs and bad guys and dictators won't do what thugs and bad guys and dictators always do. And while hope is important in all of this, hope is not a strategy. And we have to have a strategy. And part of the strategy is to do the job, to put bills on the floor, to have open debate, to have a real amendment process, to make it better, do it in front of the American people, take a vote, as Speaker Johnson said, so that every member can represent their constituents and vote their conscience in terms of what they think is best for their constituents and best for the country. And then the people of the country can decide whether that was a good thing or a bad thing. That's how accountability actually works. So some nice leadership from both the Democrats and the Republicans in terms of teeing up the conversation. We're going to watch to see how the action part of it plays out rolling into the weekend. That wraps it up for us here on Inside Sources on KSL News Radio. I'm Boyd Matheson. Thanks for joining us today. And as always, as you go out into the world, make sure you see something that inspires, say something that uplifts, and do something that makes a difference.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is